Welcome back to the Female Dating Strategy, the meanest female-only dating podcast on the internet. I am your host, Diana.
Oh, Diana, beloved Diana of the forest. I am your host, Rose. And I'm really happy to be back because actually Diana had been traveling for most of December and even into January. And while we were able to record some podcast episodes, of course, with the holidays, we took some time for ourselves, which I think is totally legit. And I want us to model for our listeners. It's okay to step away from the online podcast and forums, etc., which is a point we're going to get to down the road here in this episode. But I just wanted to say, Diana, it's nice to be back on our regular schedule. I think I hadn't realized how accustomed I had become to the sound of your voice and just these wonderful conversations that we get to have with one another every week.
Yeah, it's become such a fixture in my life. Like just, once a week I get to hear you. We get to have these discussions, and it's been a really important part of my routine last year. When I was on holiday traveling, I was like, oh my god, I miss Rose, and oh my god, I can't wait to tell Rose about this.
Same.
It's so interesting when you go and travel and you meet the scrotes of other lands, and you're like, I must speak about these scrotes and bring the lore of the scrotes to the podcast.
I must bring the word of the street to the ladies of the land. It's true, though. It's true. In many ways, I feel like we are sort of the heraldry of radical feminism, and I'm proud of us for being that, because it isn't always easy to speak truth to the situation on the ground, is it?
Mm-hmm.
People don't like to hear it necessarily.
People don't like to hear it. And honestly, things have changed a lot since when this podcast and the forum first started. Like, we were having this discussion a few days ago, but when we were doing the podcast, like when the Reddit group was still around, I don't think these discussions were nearly as mainstream. And since then, there have been a lot of influencers who've come out having these talking points. Like when people say oh my god, this is now mainstream advice. Hello, who do you think helped make it mainstream? It wasn't always mainstream.
Hello, we were the vanguard.
If it sounds mainstream to you now, it's because this is still relevant and good advice. I think people think that men have changed drastically in the last 5 years. And I hate to tell you, talk to your grandmothers, talk to your great grandmothers. They'll be telling you men have been like this for years, with or without social media, with or without the internet. I'm sorry to tell you, if you expect that they've suddenly become more sophisticated in their shittery, they haven't. They're still as terrible. They just have other tools now to manage how shitty they are.
Yes, and that's why a lot of this episode is dedicated to discussing, the real world, real time tactics and strategies we need to employ or to be mindful of when dating. Because if you're in this current landscape of this doomsday era, and you're still wanting to date, I congratulate you on your endurance and your persistence and your resilience, because something that Diana and I have talked about is every time one of us goes out into the world, because I'm out and about all the time, I'm going to events, I'm in hobby groups, I'm meeting with friends. I'm not somebody who is home for the majority of the day or evening. And every time I'm out and about, I'm a little dismayed at how awful a lot of these relationships are amongst the circles that I circulate in. And I'm also really kind of dismayed by a lot of these men that I'm meeting, because so many of them are getting radicalized. And of course, they're blaming it on us for us not being, the traditional, loving, caring, forgiving, anything goes woman, stay-at-home girlfriend, who's happy with the girlfriend status while doing all of the wife things. And they're really, really bitter and mad about it. And they're blaming us for it. And it is mind-boggling to me. But I guess, humanity has always loved having martyrs and scapegoats. And women have often been the martyrs and scapegoats of every single fucking era. So maybe I shouldn't be so surprised at this. I mean, it's just being weaponized on a grander scale than it previously has been. Maybe that's why I'm so dismayed, because I feel like in past eras, there were a lot more decent men. You didn't hear about them because if somebody's decent, for example, the news doesn't go around telling you the good news, right? News means what's the bad news of the day. And similarly, I think the men who are good men just kind of went about their business because that's how they live their lives. And they weren't online. And so they weren't able to see these distorted mirrors of what masculinity in relationships should be. I fear that men today, especially young men and these men growing up under the internet, have just been given such a distorted funhouse mirrors of what they're supposed to be and how women are supposed to be in relationship to that, as opposed to just learning about the fullness of humanity amongst all genders.
Yeah, and I mean, if I had to add to that as well, ever since pornography became a mainstay in male sexuality and consumption, I think that like social media has just warped their brains even more. It's turned them into even more, like they're just degenerate now because a lot of social media is, all these like thirst traps and stuff is very often just very like soft porn. Like in the 90s, that would be like the pornography that they would have to go to like a DVD store and buy. And now it's like in their phones, like where they can consume it like every day. I remember I was taking a bus once, at an old job. And I remember I was seated next to this boy. He must have been like 15. Okay. I knew he was a teenager for sure. And he was just like double tapping all these pictures of like half naked women on Instagram, like not even really looking at them, just like double tap, double tap, double tap, double tap, like on the bus, like sitting right next to me. I was so uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, this is normal for them now that like this level of exposure is just rotting their brains. I think a lot of people don't want to contend with the fact that like this is what a lot of men have become. Your search for a high value man is not like a futile one. I just want to start like we have to clarify some FDS positions here because obviously there will be some speculation into our own personal dating lives, which is fair enough because we're the hosts of a dating podcast. And like I think for the most part, both me and Rose are agreed on the fact that we're not against dating. We just don't want to date losers. And I don't think that that's a wild position to have. Like, I mean, I think that's a normal position to have. Like, why the hell should I date for somebody else's?
But Diana,
yeah,
you have to think about this like it is a radical position in regular society, right? Because most things are still telling women settle, be content and grateful for whatever you get. I mean, shit, look at Ballerina Farm and like her billionaire husband who buys her an egg apron instead of taking her to Greece, which is all she wants. And when she got the egg apron, as she was getting it, she had barely opened it. Her husband's like, recording her for the views that he's going to get, that he's going to post this video and earn all the money in his own pocket because she's not registered under Ballerina Farm. He has it registered under his own name. He's like, you're welcome, because she didn't thank him fast enough. And I'm just like, this is the attitude of every fucking scrote out there. And they want you to see this as being normal and natural. Like they want to take the back of your head and like put your nose into the shit and be like, tell me it smells like roses. Tell me it smells like roses.
Yeah. But I think that there are some people who have questions about like, how are we able to be in this position without feeling like that itch of like, oh, well, I'm single. Like, what can I do to change that? Like, I don't see my singledom as something I need to actively change unless someone who is a viable option presents themselves to me. I get asked out a lot when I go out on events and stuff. Like, men usually approach me and they ask me out, but I usually don't go because they usually don't offer anything of me, like to me, of value. Like, I'm not interested in wasting my time spending an hour asking you about your siblings and what you do for work. Like, at this stage of my life, like, I want somebody who is actually able to hold a conversation beyond the bare minimum and is not expecting me to like carry all of that labor,
Well, and Diana, you were saying that you were getting asked out all the time when in the last place you were visiting, but like not a single one was able to follow up with the bare minimum.
No, so it's not even for lack of trying. Like, you know what I mean? It's like genuinely, I'm strict. Okay. And I think we should all be. I'd assume a woman who's listening to this podcast is not listening to it because she wants to settle. I don't think the advice you want from us is to settle either. Like, I'm not going to be settling because I did what I needed to do in order to create a happy life for myself, and so did Rose. We built lives for ourselves where we're content. And like, it's going to take a lot for me to disrupt that peace. It's going to take a truly spectacular and wonderful person for me to be like, oh, all this contentment and peace I feel right now, let's risk it.
Oh, this wonderful life that you built that's vibing and thriving, that I could actually have taken away from me at the moment of like a jealous man's hands. Let's just give it a whirl. Like, I mean, I think that's something that women have to start to really internalize. And, I've never been on TikTok, but I have been seeing more and more like YouTubers will stitch the threads or whatever call them from TikTok. And I've been so happy to see the rise of radical feminism, like in real time, because as Diana was saying, back when we first started with this on the forum of Reddit, like, it was extremely controversial. Like, we were getting doxxed all the time. We were getting like hate threats, death threats. I mean, it was a wild time. I don't even know if it's changed that much, but like, we've had such a broadening on the landscape of these talking points that now they do sound a lot more common and a lot more mainstream. They're still not, but at least we're hearing them from more than one person, right?
I mean, also, like, going back to another point that we were going to talk about today, we need to talk about being chronically online.
Ooh.
Do you suffer from being chronically online? Because very often, I will say, like, even as uncontroversial as we're slowly becoming, which I still don't think that we're completely uncontroversial, because I think we still get a lot of pushback. We still get articles being like, this is a very radical place, and oh my God, how dare women suggest that they should have standards. But when I talk to like women on like the day to day, just like average women I speak to around me, they do not have this mindset. And if you're off the internet all interacting with people, you know this to be true. But like the FTS mindset is not like the regular mindset to have. Like, it's the only way that you would think the advice we're giving is like dated or not, we're keeping with the times, is if you're a person who's chronically online and you're consuming media and content, again, given to you by an algorithm that knows what you're consuming and is only showing you radical feminist content. It's very easy to convince yourself, because of your online ecosystem, that this is the conversation that all women are having with each other. And you'd be making a mistake, because when you go out in real life and you have a conversation with a three-dimensional person that's not pixelated, you'll find out that that's not the case. And that's not how people are.
It's so true. And, that's such a good point, Diana. And honestly, I'm going to share a little bit of something that's been a grievance of mine that I have not brought up to those people closest to me. All my friends, like we've talked about, we've never had problems having girlfriends or very robust social circles. I've always been somebody who's really popular. I don't understand it, but I've seen it enough to know it's true. And so that's something that's always been a saving grace for me. But when I tell you that now that thanks to FDS, my standards, my expectations, etc., all of those have been slowly shifting. And I think what's been last on the docket has been friendships, because those are the things that I'm like most loath to really interrogate and potentially change, because it just feels scary and it feels like everything that I have built is relying upon those people. And so one thing that's been really hard for me to understand and accept is like, how important am I to these friends if not a one of them will actually take the time to listen to one single podcast? Like, I have one friend who is listening to every single one. Thank you. Love you, friend. Thank you so much. And she gives me feedback. And like, it's very helpful, because I do want to know, amongst my closest, how am I doing? What am I sounding like? Am I missing things? Like, I like a critical feedback, right? Like, I come from a music background. We're used to critical feedback. That's just the name of the game. So I was really hoping I'd be hearing more from my friends on their thoughts. And like, oh, of all of my friends, only one is actually listening. They haven't even listened to a single podcast that I've done. And it's really got me reconsidering like the closeness I thought I had, the importance that I felt I had in their lives. And maybe this is me being too online as well, right? Because these are all women who have flourishing careers. They have children, they have husbands. But I think that's what I wanted to point out to our listeners was like, I come from a very regular, run-of-the-mill, average, middle-class, Midwestern background. All of the people that I'm surrounded by, all of the women, their lives are absolutely male-centered. Their entire existence, the whole point of it is men and children. And again, that is what is the norm in the world. Like, I am an aberration in the typical run-of-the-mill things. And so when I actually like go out and I'm hanging out with my girlfriends and I'm listening to their stories of their husbands and all the things that they have to do for their family and their household, because it's all on them. They're all like, listen, we get it, Rose. Like, if I had the kind of life you had, I don't know if I'd change it either. And it's like, well, I'm always saying to them, if you know somebody, like, please introduce them to me. I'd much rather have an introduction among friends, among people who've already been vetted. Like, I don't date online. That's just not going to happen. I'm not going to date on apps. But when I say to them, like, if you have anybody, they're all like, oh, like, there's this one guy, but he's really a whore. Or like, oh, there's this one guy, but like, he's still dealing with alcoholism. And it's like, okay, so there is nobody amongst these circles. And I have vast circles. And so at this point, I'm actually like, I've been going more and more to this. I'm part of a online alcoholics. It's not Alcoholics Anonymous. I can't stand Alcoholics Anonymous and like God is a higher power and this and that. Coming from a Catholic, like a Reformed Catholic background, I cannot with that sort of pablum anymore. And so I found this non-religious, secular Alcoholics Anonymous forum, which has been fantastic. And they've been doing more and more events and activities. And I'm like, maybe I'll just need to go to more of these, especially living in the Midwest. Like, everything's around drinking. And it's not that I have a problem being around drinking, but if that's your entire social calendar, like, that's not going to gel with my lifestyle at this point. And I'm not going back. So all of this is to say, like, it's so easy to think that we're right and everybody understands and accepts our points. And why wouldn't you agree with us? But like, if you're out and about in the real world, you'll find that like, not only are we radical, like we're on the far end of radicalism. Like, this shit is not mainstream. I'm happy that we're actually having forums and apps where you can see these points being distributed, but it's not how things are actually going down out there in the real world.
No, and honestly, even if you get approached by randos, like you still have to play like the same level of vetting. There's just no way around it. I think a lot of people have turned online for advice and then they don't realize that, like, yes, as much as the internet is real, it's also not real. Everything that's being sent to you is curated based on like what you're engaging with. If you're the kind of person who's engaging with a lot of like rad fem stuff in general, chances are that's what's being shown to you. So like again, it's like it comes down to what you're consuming, right? Like I had to put a cap on like how many videos I was watching about women talking about how shit men are, not because I don't believe that, but because I was like, well, if my plan is to decenter men, I really need to decenter them this way too, because guess what a straight man isn't doing? I mean, like, except the red pill ones. They're definitely not on the internet watching videos about how much they hate women. They're just going and, engaging in their hobbies and doing their thing. Like, men are the main characters of their own lives. Like, why aren't we?
Oh, okay, wait. That's like a record scratch moment. Can you repeat what you just said, which is so wise?
I expect red pill men to be obsessed with us because as much as they say they hate women, they want women, okay? It's a cope. We can see that, right? We can see that they desperately want sexual access to women or romantic access to women. And like this entire identity that they formed is basically cope, massive copium. But an average straight guy who's happy and content in his life, he doesn't look to the internet to find things that validate how much he hates women. He's just like using it for like hobbies or listening to, I don't know, Arctic Monkeys or whatever the fuck, how to, I don't know, hammer up some drywall. I don't know what men consume. What, you know what I mean? Like,
The point is, what you said was men are the main characters of their own lives.
and we act like we're not. We act like men are the main characters of our lives as well. And this is what I mean about like, even when you decenter men, if all you're doing is consuming content talking about how shit they are, you're still centering them.
Ooh.
Okay, you're still I hate to break it to you, like even like talking about them negatively, it's like all media, all publicity is good publicity. You know what I mean? Even if you're giving them bad press, you're still giving them attention. You're still making them such a focus in your life, and this is why like I want to do like a whole podcast sometime like about how being chronically online is like ruining you and causing you to self-sabotage, because I think a lot of the girlies are like on these social media apps and like constantly consuming media and messaging from other women who have bad experiences with men and are like ruminating in this soup of constantly being like, men are terrible, men are this, men are that. And like, we know this to be true, right? Like, the thing is, when you're in these silos of information, no matter what your political ideology is, like even out of touch billionaires, they end up being out of touch because they don't have a grip on reality. But I often think many of us women who consume and who are just in these spaces and don't actually go out and interact with people, don't actually go and like, try to diversify our social circles in terms of like events and like spaces that we go to, we end up developing this understanding of human beings around us that is completely curated by the internet,
Skewed.
completely informed by the internet. And it's often not true. This is not to say that there aren't terrible, bad faith actors out there, that there aren't bad men, that there aren't men that will hurt you. Like, we've gone over this enough through the handbook and FDS. Like, there's a whole reason we have a strategy, right? There's a whole reason we have this, because we acknowledge those people exist. But you're giving them way too much power over your life, and you're devoting too much of your time by constantly consuming media that is centered around hating them or putting them on a pedestal or being like, how can I find one? And I know this is very ironic for us to say, given what we do as a podcast. But like, this is the reason why we took the time off. And this is the reason why we do these like light, fun filler episodes, and like we go off on trips and we just do our own thing, because we are also human. We don't want to spend our entire time ruminating on how terrible men are either. Like we want to go and have relationships with people that are fulfilling. We want to have, friendships with people that bring meaning.
But yet we're trying to make sure we maintain a fullness of existence that cannot be if you are only ever with a device in your hand. It's such a good point, Diana. And this is something where we might have to have this episode if people want us to. But I feel so fortunate that I was like, being the Zennial that I am, I grew up in my childhood, there were no screens. I mean, there was a TV, but since I was the youngest, I never had the remote control. I never had power over the TV choices. So I never had anything to watch that I wanted to watch. So I never, ever developed the habit of watching anything. What I did do was like go for walks out in the woods and daydream and like sleep under lilac bushes and like, envision what my life was going to be like when I was older and look over the horizon and be like, what worlds are out there, and read and listen to music and play piano and like call my girlfriends and ask my mom if I could help her bake bread. Like I was doing things in the world. And so that has always been my default. Now, of course, as everybody else has come along into the online world, I'm on Reddit all the time. Like, I'm on like Facebook Marketplace because I'm always trying to find a good deal. But that's maybe an hour or two a day, which is probably too much as well. But like now I have a dog, I'm walking the dog, I'm meeting the fellow dog walkers around here. And it just reminds me like whenever I'm out and about for a certain age group, especially younger, like I would say anything 30 or below, I never see them a phone in their hands. And like even when they're walking, they are staring down at the phone in their hands. And like if they're not staring down at the phone in their hands, there's like almost a furtiveness, the constant checking, like their eyes are just always flicking down. Like they have such a reflex now that it's like it pains that they have to actually work to drag their eyes away, which is terrifying. And so this is something where I think, if you're like, I'm not online all the time, like I go get my groceries and this and that. When you're waiting in the grocery line, do you pull your phone out? If you're getting your nails done, are you on your phone? Like if you're going to church, are you able to leave your phone in the car? If you go to dinner with friends, can you leave your phone in the car? Can you not check it once during the course of the dinner time? If you cannot answer yes, this is something that you seriously have to come to terms and grapple with, because the whole point of relationships, if you want to be dating for love, if you're looking for fulfillment and partnership, there is an intimacy that has to be cultivated, and not just in dribs and drabs. It's a continual deepening and strengthening that has to come from being fully present and engaged with the person in front of you. I don't know how anybody's able to do that these days with like how dependent they are on having a screen to look to.
Yep. And again, like, I think that people think that if you're not on your phone for 5 minutes, you're gonna, like, suddenly be misinformed.
Yeah, you're missing a nuclear Armageddon. Like you're missing the declaration of war or something.
The longer you're on those apps, the longer you're going to be misinformed because they have you hooked and they have to keep on hitting your dopamine receptor with some inane garbage to convince you to stay on their platforms, okay? Because every single news outlet now is essentially just sensationalist media that's there to essentially just tickle your brain receptors and be like, stay here for 5 more minutes so that we can get, like, I don't know, payment and you can see our ads and whatnot. But like, here's the thing, right? Like, okay, I don't know that this is a controversial thing to say. You can be well informed without having to rely entirely on your phone.
Oh!
You know what I do when I want to find out what's going on in another country? I call up my friend from that country.
What?
I recognize that my country is going to have propaganda that's not going to feed me the full truth. And I think it would behoove a lot of people in the West to know that your media is going to put a spin on the story to convince you about certain things in other parts of the world that's not entirely honest. It might be to your benefit to actually befriend people from other places and talk to them. Granted, they might also have propaganda on their end, but usually I find when I talk to enough people, I'm able to form an opinion. I'm able to find out what exactly is going on because everybody else is telling you what's going on in the ground right there. And that's something that you don't usually get in your media because, I mean, look at the stuff that happened with Luigi. The second they found out that people were on his side, they like got him out of the news cycle so fast. Like, they were trying to make that billionaire guy seem so empathetic, and then they found out he's a scrote that like essentially abandoned his family. And I was like, I love this.
I know. It's so true. It's so true. And what's funny is, like, thanks to Reddit, for example, I found out that there were all these world demonstrations and protests against Trump this last week. Not a single word of that was breathed anywhere on American media that I could see. How terrifying is that? Like, the entire media landscape, we're like, well, some media is more conservative, some's more liberal, but like, through one of them, we're going to hear this. Not a single one, which tells me they're already bending the knee, which is like one of the early warning signs of impending
Fascism. Manufacture consent and all of that Lipman stuff,
All of it. And so, I'm already terrified because I'm seeing how quickly the media is bending the knee and like issuing, a nationwide blackout on anything that shows how the rest of the world is dealing with Trump. Like, I mean, I cannot believe in my lifetime I'm seeing the return of Nazis. Like, I need to have a little rant for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a little rant because today we're recording this. It's January 26th. Trump ascended to power on the 20th. He was sworn in, although he refused to swear in a Bible, which I'm conflicted because, like, he clearly doesn't believe in the Bible. So he doesn't believe. So he's swearing to nothing. Like, what's the point of swearing if you don't have anything that you're like swearing allegiance to? You know what I mean? Anyway, the point is the fuck shit that has already come down the pipeline. It's like unreal because I should have known they've been planning and plotting for years for his return, and they've been drawing up all of these bills they wanted to introduce right away, right after the jump. But like, it is even wilder that I already was sort of a doomsdayer with Trump. I mean, from years ago, I was like, if this guy is like the second coming of Hitler, this is going to be awful. How did I know this? Because he was absolutely like my father. And I know how radical my father was. And he has turned one of my brothers into the same, spitting image of that, a brother I've had to cut off because of how hateful he became. And so when Trump came around, I was like, oh shit, like men love this kind of guy. The men that I know, the men that I come from, this is their kind of guy. And I always had like doomsday leanings, but it's gotten even worse than I could have anticipated, which is really dismaying. It's really disheartening. Like I was saying to Diana in the pre-show, Trump wants to invade Greenland? Like, what the fuck? Who imagines this? Who dreams this shit up? Like, oh my God. Of course, it's probably backed by Russia, but the point is, all of this is coming down the pipeline because, as you say, manufacturing of consent, there's also been the manufacturing of divisions. And they have got us so divided right now. And it's like, don't you see that it's the rich against everybody else? No, instead they want it to be like, oh, it's trans women in sports, or, it's healthcare, pharmacy. They're not making enough profit. So we have to think about like the healthcare industry as a whole. It's so wild to me how people don't peel away the sort of veil to see what's beneath, this sort of circus that's happening.
The surface, yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I'm somebody who comes from an English lit background. My training is literally in like semiotics and linguistics. How to understand, how to read between the lines, how to see what's not being said. And so I think I've been very advantageous in like the fact that I can read and consume so much media and then be able to draw my own conclusion, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm drawing from 5 to 10 sources. I'm seeing what's true amongst all of them. I'm seeing where there's dissent. And then I'm like able to find a happy medium, like figuring out what more or less has happened. But who has the time for that? And certainly who has the training for that? And so we are seeing like the rotten fruits of this ongoing effort between, the dumbing down of the populace and also like, I would say Russia's propaganda machine, misinformation machine has been perfected. And now we're dealing with like the rise of fascism. And I can't fucking believe in my lifetime or in any lifetime that's within like basically the same century as the Holocaust, we're seeing it again. Like Elon Musk and his, Sieg Heil?
Yep, the Nazi salute, yep.
The fucking Nazi salute, like behind the American emblem on a world stage and nothing. Like a lot of the media sources were like, oh, Elon Musk had an awkward gesture. And some people think it resembles. It's like, oh my God. This was something in George Orwell where he was like, the party taught you to disbelieve your eyes.
Yeah, disbelieve the evidence of your own eyes. It was their last defense or something like that.
Their last and most effective command. And like, I'm seeing it in real time and it's just so wild. I'm like, oh my God, the United States, why are we so fucking crazy?
Also, something that I found really triggering about that was people being like, oh no, he's just autistic. And like, I have to say, one of the things that really pissed me off, I used to have this friend who was autistic, okay? And a lot of the times he would say these really downright bigoted things and people would brush it off because they'd be like, oh, well, he has autism. So like, he doesn't mean it. And I was like, I find this really offensive to like the women who have autism because I've never met a woman with autism who is a bigoted person or a hateful person. You know what I mean? Like, sure, they might miss social cues and things like that. Like, of course, people on the spectrum are, there's like a wide range, right, of like your experience. Like when people start defending bigotry under the name of like, oh no, well, he's just autistic. I feel like men are given this grace and this like leniency that women are not. Like, I don't really like them excusing it as like, oh, he's just mentally ill. He didn't mean to like do the Hitler salute. I'm like, excuse me? Also, because like one of the lesser known things is he had like a video call with like a German alt-right party, like either earlier that day or later that day. Yeah, where he was like, y'all shouldn't feel sad about like the shit that your ancestors did. And like, you know what I mean? Like that, there's nothing more obvious than that, like what he meant by that, because he went on to like talk to like this German alt-right group and say, you shouldn't feel sad about the past, And I have a German friend and she's in the States right now. And she was like, oh my God, I suddenly feel like I'm in my grandmother's country. I feel like I'm on her timeline. Like it feels like we went like, 70, 80 years like back. That's all it took, to go back to this. And it's like, we are at like the worst timeline. We know that,
Me
right?
too, yes. And I think a lot of it has to do from being online. That's our whole point, is like being chronically online can lead to these sort of nefarious ends, because back in the day, if you were Elon Musk, I don't care if you were autistic or not, if you were in like 1960s America and you did that, you were getting fucking punched in the face in real time. You know, you had consequences and you had shame in real time. Now you have like an echo chamber of people being like, oh, he's just misunderstood. He didn't understand. He was autistic. Oh, he was just waving. Like all of these, this fuck bucket of people like having different opinions. No, he should be punched in the face and like dragged off and tarred and feathered. But because everything's online, it's not happening. And I think that's why it's getting so radicalized, because shame has always been one of the most effective tools of human society, right? Like, it's not that people have always misbehaved and there was perfect justice, but there was a lot more recourse amongst society and your social circles to punish and demonstrate if somebody was acting out of line.
Also, there was some like integrity, there was some honesty. I mean, some of these people, like their parents, or probably their grandparents, served in the army for the States, like when they were in World War II. Like, you're just spitting on your grandparents' sacrifices to bring you a just world. And now you're inviting Nazis to your doorstep. Like, your ancestors are very disappointed. Let me just start with that, you know?
They are turning over in their grave. They are, the sands of their dead bones are shifting in indignation. Like, it is. It's so crazy that we're living in the worst timeline. But what I will say is this. One of the things that people seem to really like about me is the energy and the joy that I exude. And I get this compliment from people all the time. In fact, I just had another interview this last week where like the first thing she said was, I love your energy. I get that all the time. I get it from cashiers and checkout people. And like, I'm not doing anything intentionally. I'm just being myself. And I'm always like, well, thank you so much. And you know why I'm so happy? They're like, why? I'm like, I don't watch the news. They're like, oh yeah, I need to stop watching the news. I'm like, I'm not saying I don't look and get information about the world and current events. Okay, let's not mistake the two.
Here's the thing, we are well-informed people. We just choose not to have this shit be spewed down our throats every day ad nauseum. That's the real difference. Like, you don't know how much limiting social media usage will just improve your life. Like, also, so much of my work is like online. Like, I spend at least 8 hours on screen writing and doing stuff, researching. And so, like, I tend to be very well informed because I spend most of my workday on the internet. So when I don't have to be, I'm just not. Like, even right now, even when I record the podcast with you, I'm usually not directly looking at the screen. I'm usually just like standing up, moving around, like, while you're speaking. And like, yeah, I try to give myself some like, don't always engage with the screen time and just like focus on your voice and like, ground myself with like what you're saying. Like, I think the more that we sit and distract ourselves, like, I know people who can't even be on like a Zoom call meeting because they have to be online shopping at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, people don't realize how scattered their attention has become because you want all of these like easily digestible bites. Like, how quickly can I find my high value man? Where should I go to find a high value man? What are 5 ways to figure out whether your high value man is secretly a Nazi? I'm like, okay, you need to put the BuzzFeedification of FDS down.
I was just going to say the BuzzFeedification. Absolutely. We are on the same mental track right there. Like, that's why they're so successful.
Yeah, because it's simple. And I mean, I wish we could offer you this simple news of like, it's this easy to find a life partner who's going to treat you with respect. But like, it's going to take a lot more work from you. And that's the challenge of it all. You know what I mean? Like, in order to have the life that you want, it's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be easy because you're in a terrible timeline. You're in a timeline where basic human decency, integrity, respect, and kindness has been thrown out of the window. I mean, I think even conservative people can make that argument because most of them, we all don't live in a world where we get along with each other. Like, this is the fact of life. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what end of the political spectrum you're on. I think one thing we can all agree on is we don't get along.
Yeah. Yeah, totally true.
I don't think anybody is in disagreement about that. I think that's something that we're all like, yeah, we're like, every single person complains about like how life isn't like how it used to be. Well, agreed. Nobody's disagreeing on that point, right? But like, at the end of the day, you are spending so much of your time in a place where is designed to make you miserable. And that's what we feel about dating apps too. These are designed to make you unhappy. They're not designed to bring you joy. They're not designed to make you happy. They're not designed to bring you everlasting love. And you're buying into very effective marketing and propaganda, and that's what it all is. It's very effective marketing and propaganda. Anybody who comes to you and says, I have an easy solution for your problems is a snake oil salesman. You should know that by now.
Mm-hmm. Especially growing up and even into my 30s, I really thought there was like one solution that made everything easier and like my true heart's desire to my door. Yeah, and you know what? There is me creating my own life. That was the hard sell that I had to sell to myself. It was like, listen, nobody's coming to save you. Your family's not going to suddenly start being supportive and loving and caring and giving a shit about you. Your friends aren't all of a sudden going to like decide that you're the most important thing in their lives. Like, you have to be the most important thing in your life and proceed accordingly. And ever since I took those steps, I cannot tell you how immeasurably better my life has been. And it's funny because, we're always like, well, just be the partner that you want to see and they will appear before you. Like, no, all of this is just bullshit that people say because they don't want to actually face the reality that sometimes you're not going to find somebody. Or sometimes you're going to find somebody and they're perfect for 5 years and then they cheat on you with your sister. Like, there's no guarantee. Humans are going to human, But what I can control, what's within my seat of power, is my own life and my own choices. And so it's been really interesting as I've become like an even more joyous person. I've always been a real, Pollyanna. I think I've said that from the beginning. And when Diana did my reading, she was like, well, no wonder. Like, you're born under all these signs. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not just a naive idiot. No, this is like, it's written in the stars. But no, the point is, for a while I was trying not to become bitter and cynical. And it was because I was trying to date and I was trying to find my perfect love match and it wasn't happening. And I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? It has to be something that I'm doing wrong. Well, ultimately what I had to realize was like, this dating market is shit. It's very selective. Like a selective few are going to find really happy, healthy relationships. The rest are going to settle for like dysfunctional relationships because they'd rather have those than be alone. And then there are those who are single who are finding happiness and meaning in their own lives. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm going to have to choose because like clearly it's not been in the cards so far. But something I want people to also consider is like, maybe we're not meant to find the person we're with in our early 20s or 30s.
Look, like, I think we said this in the pre-chat as well. I think it's very hard for some women to accept that they are not voluntarily single. Some of you are not single by choice. Some of you are single and like waiting to be in the next relationship. And you need to deal with that because the truth is like I've had these conversations with women where women have been like, how come you're not like bitter and jaded about being single? And like I've also had women be like, oh, why do you hate men so much? And I'm like, I don't. Right. Frankly, I don't think about them at all. Like the men that I have in my life are lovely. I have no reason to have any grievance or anything towards them. Like I just don't think about them. But that's the thing, right? If all you do is think about men, a person who doesn't think about a man looks like she hates a man. I don't hate a man. I just don't, like, they don't factor into my life. It's like asking me if I hate waffles. I've never even thought about a waffle until you brought it up. You know what I mean? It's like, you could say, oh, I like pancakes, and then someone would be like, you fucking hate waffles, don't you? I'm like, those are two separate thoughts, okay? They have nothing to do with each other. Like, if I say I like being single, they're like, why do you hate men? Where is this coming from?
Right. And this is something that we were talking about in the pre-show is like, because of this online discourse and like the different ways in which we've been entrained to interact, a lot of times what we've forgotten is how to just listen to listen, like how to actively listen. A lot of times, and this was also back when I was a lot more miserable in my singleness, because I'm not now, but I was for a very long time. I mean, I used to sob. I was so heartbroken that I hadn't found my forever true love and that I wasn't starting with a family I'd always dreamed of. Because, coming from a dysfunctional family, a very common trauma response and cope is to dream of the family you're going to have one day that's going to be the family of your dreams, the idealized version that you didn't get to have growing up. So that my whole life was like based on, it was staked on finding this and making this happen. And when it didn't happen, I mean, I was bereft. I was truly devastated and heartbroken. But I started to turn the page when I was like, well, but does this mean I'm not supposed to enjoy my life? Like I'm just supposed to sit here and grieve for what never happened? That doesn't sound like a really healthy way to go about living. And I started to interrogate it and get a therapist and turn the page. And it's been amazing. But like what I learned was back when I was so eager to find my one true love and live the life I always thought I should have, I had like a list of talking points ready for anybody who was giving me advice, or even if I was on a date, I was like, okay, well, here's a script I can use, and this is going to help me find somebody. Well, what it did was it made me not actually connect with the person in front of me. I wasn't actually listening to listen. I was listening to rebut and to respond. Do you know what I mean? And this is something that I think a lot of us are dealing with now because of being online all the time. We're just waiting our turn to speak instead of actually hearing what the person in front of us is saying.
We're hearing to respond and not to listen. Another thing is like, because of how easy it is to stalk and like intrude on somebody else's life, people are like internet sleuthing to find out all they can about like the people that they're dating. And fair enough, like, in FDS, we encourage the snooping. We encourage the, like, if you feel like something suspicious about a man, you should do it. But it never replaces active listening. You're going to find out so much more about that man listening to him on dates than you ever will by just snooping on him. Because yes, snooping on him will tell you certain things, like, if his likes are, I don't know if you can still see what people like on Instagram anymore, but once upon a time you could see if he like liked, all of these like Instagram baddies. But now you can see if he follows them. You can see if he's got like a list of people of like half naked women that he follows. I mean, again, those are like very glaring red flags. Some men are more savvy than that. Like, not all of them are that stupid. Some of them have brains. And the ones that have brains are going to be a lot more careful about how they present themselves online, especially if it's attached to their business or it's attached to a professional reputation. They're going to be a lot more careful about how they present themselves online. And so it's never going to replace active listening. And I think a lot of people, like they look at what they see online and they're like, well, this can happen for me too. And it's like, oh, you're looking at this person because of an image they're projecting on in a very curated format like social media. And I think younger women are taken by this a lot more because, again, like I probably grew up in the last group of people who did not have their childhoods affected by social media. Like by the time I graduated high school, I don't know, maybe a couple of years into college, maybe later into college is when Instagram became a thing. And like Tinder wasn't even a thing at that point. So like, we still had to deal with three-dimensional people. We weren't like engaging with each other just on like based on an image that we saw, that was heavily face-tuned and whatnot. Like we didn't know about these things. We took pictures and then we oversaturated them to death till we looked orange, and then we posted like 5 different versions of that on Facebook, and like that was our extent of being very trendy photograph wise. Like we didn't know what the hell we were doing on the internet when we were on the internet. Okay, it was fun. Now it's not fun. And like younger women are like looking at these social media couples and they're taking it as like fact that this is what healthy relationships are supposed to look like. And very often, like, those people are selling to you as well.
That's right.
Those people are marketing to you as well. Sometimes their brand as a couple is what pays them. And I think a lot of people can't like see reality from fiction anymore. Like a lot of people are just completely attached to what they see as an image online. Like, for example, like things that are not said to you directly, like just because somebody is not saying it on the internet does not mean that that's like some people say things and do the complete opposite. Just because somebody says it on a podcast or somebody says it on the internet doesn't mean that that's necessarily what they're doing.
And this is something we also discussed in our pre-talk, which was like, don't forget that so as many of us become wiser and savvier about, the fallout of having posted something, radical or inflammatory, a lot of these men have moved everything to private group chats offline. Like we were just saying, in Germany, there was like 70,000 men on this Telegram app. South Korea as well had this, maybe it was like 300,000. And it's like them swapping pictures of like raping their mothers and sisters and daughters and whatnot.
This has become very normal for young teenage boys. I hear like in a lot of schools, because I have friends who are teachers in schools and stuff, and they tell me that like these boys have like WhatsApp groups where they circulate their girlfriends' nudes and things like that, like with each other, So this is becoming very normal as porn has become more normalized for men. Like you have no idea what conversations he's having with men outside of you.
Women and women's bodies are used as currency in men's games of prestige.
Yep. So not only do you have to be careful with like what you share online, I do think that like I remember, I think it was like a couple of years ago I think it was like right before Savannah reached out to me for the podcast gig. But I was on a hiatus from all social media. I didn't have anything. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have X. I still don't have any of those platforms, by the way. Like, because once I went off of them, I was like, okay, I'm not missing anything. Because I realized, I was like, oh, I have close friends. If those close friends want me to know things, they'll send that to me themselves. And now it's encouraged this thing where like I'm like the grandma of the group where they like send me photos of their holidays and stuff. But now they have to explain to me what they did. And they love that. They love sending me voice notes about like, oh, this is what I saw in Prague. And this is what my baby ate yesterday morning, even though I'm like, I never asked for this, but sure, give it to me. I want to know what little Bob ate. It's always Bob.
Yes, exactly. It's always little Bob, little Bobby.
Little Bob. When he's not being a total asshole, little Bob is eating, his breakfast. But like, I mean, like it encouraged like a level of one-to-one connection that my friends would not be forced to, because like, I think Instagram and these platforms make things so passive. It's like you feel connected to people just because you're like seeing their stories and whatnot, but it's not real connection. It's like you're getting a slideshow of people's highlights in their life without really engaging with it in any meaningful way.
Yeah, I think they're calling this parasociality, right? Parasocial relationships.
Parasocial behaviors. Yeah. And what it does is like, I mean, with celebrities and stuff, like I have, some friends who are celebrities as well. And now it's like the entitlement that people feel to them that like, oh, you need to be giving me every last tidbit of your life and what's going on in your life. I'm like, this is weird. Like, I would never demand this from people I know, let alone people I don't. Like, you should be telling me the intimate details of your private life, what's going on, who are you dating, where are you right now. Like, it's so bizarre that people think that these are normal things just because they see it on the internet. But that's what happens. It's like you get on these stories, you zoom through people. Again, like the app is well designed because it's essentially getting you to compete with your own social circle, right? You're the most miserable one. Everybody else is doing really well. You're single. You don't have a boyfriend. She's married. She has kids. She has the perfect life and you don't. And it's intentional. It's there to make you feel insecure, right? When I went off of those apps, I just stopped giving a shit. And what ended up happening is the people who were close to me, who I always expected would keep in touch with me, those were the ones who reached out to me one-on-one and was like, this is what's going on in my life. We did proper check-ins with each other, If I wasn't able to get a hold of them because they weren't on this platform or that platform, we used, oh my God, this is going to make me sound so dated. We used the email.
The email? You used the email?
They wrote the electronic email to me, not the email mail. Actually, you know what? I sent postcards to people this year and I was like, wow, I feel like I'm from 1962. Like, I'm sending you a letter from this post office. Like, it was just so funny.
Actually, my family and friends love that about me. Like for birthdays and the holidays, and just randomly, I will send cards and like little postcards or little stamps, or I'll send, some fun stickers I found, or like they love to get it in the mail, and I love to send it.
Yeah. But I think, see, like for those of us who grew up without this being a mainstay, we still know how to go back to it. And like a lot of the people who are in the same age range as us, like it's probably not that hard for us to maintain those kinds of relationships. But I really do feel for younger people because I think for some of them, they've never not known a situation that wasn't digital, and like nothing was analog, everything was digital. And so everything is down to like how many likes can I get on the gram, and like what does my life look like on TikTok, and like why don't I have this like couple goal situation going on, and like you're measuring yourself to people being like, oh, like people posting shit like, how did I land my high value man? Like, come on, girl. Like, this is so advertising. True. This is advertising. This is not real. And you have to stop. Like, this is what I mean by like limiting your social media use is going to improve your life, because you're comparing your life to people who are sometimes straight up lying to you. Straight up lying, like you don't know that their relationship is all that. Like they're just telling you what they need to get sponsorship from, I don't know, like Lime bikes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you can't take it seriously. But the thing is, that's what we've reached a stage where people are like, it's not just misinformation about politics. It's misinformation about what your happy life is supposed to look like. People are learning cues. Before it used to be advertising, right? Buy this product. This is what you need to have a happy life. Now it's social media. You can have our happy life if you do these things. It hasn't changed, just the medium has changed. And I think for a lot of young people, it's like, oh, but how can I go out? Like we're hearing a lot about Gen Z being like, they don't drink, they don't have sex, they're not socializing, they're all on their phones. We hear this shit all the time. And it's like, well, one part of it is their spaces have been taken away from them. Second part is like they're working like dogs, right? So yes, they already have these two things working against them. But the third is like, even when I meet like younger people, a decade younger than me, I noticed like they're not that comfortable talking to each other. They don't know how to do the small chit chat because they're so used to doing everything online. Like, again, I can always tell when someone is chronically online because they just sound different. It's like everything that they feel and know about the world is something they've completely plucked out of TikTok. And it's very obvious to tell them apart from people who are like engaging with everyday people, And like lots of countries have a problem with this very online population. Like if you look at like Japan and stuff with like hikikomoris and stuff, like that's how incel culture bred. A lot of these people are extremely online, and like this is not good for your mental health. And like the reason we're saying this to women is because I'm starting to see a rise of this in women too, and it's causing massive depression because a lot of them are setting stakes with like, okay, well, why haven't I found my high value man yet, and what should I do? And maybe it's like not like feng shui. It's not like if you orient yourself in a different position and you just go to a different side of the room, you'll suddenly meet a high value man because the cosmos is aligning with you. You know what I mean? Like this is not how it works.
Right. There's no formula.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the formula is with everything, you have to take a leap of faith. You have to trust that the person won't screw you over, and you have to trust yourself to walk away if they do.
Ooh, because that's the thing. It's like, again, you can only control your own actions. For me, I've actually somebody who's become, I wouldn't say, like, I've become less trusting, but more hopeful for men. I think that's how I would say it. It's like, Yeah, I don't necessarily believe them, but I'm hopeful that they can like follow their word and that they're acting in good faith because that's how I'm coming to the situation, right? And then if they demonstrate otherwise, what I have developed faith in is that I will walk away. And that is the most powerful feeling. And what's been interesting is like, a lot of times when I meet men, they have a weird reaction to me because like they're both attracted to me and repelled. And I think a lot of it is because they're attracted to me because they feel seen and heard, because I'm very present when I'm with someone. But they're also repelled because I am so joyful and I am so almost like childlike with my wonderment of the world. And I think that that disturbs them because so often what they're taught is that to be a man is to be cynical and closed and hard. And I'm soft and gentle and like, whimsical and funny. And they're just like, I'm feeling all sorts of ways about this. Like, she shouldn't be able to be successful and be like she is in this world, right? They have a lot of misconceptions about what women are supposed to be, and I seem to confound them on a very primal level. But again, that has nothing to do with me. That's not my business. That's theirs. And younger me would never have understood that. Younger me would have like twisted myself into pretzels to try and like appease what they think I should be in order for them to like me. And now I'm like, honestly, if you can't like me, like that's on you, dude. Like I'm a very likable person and like you're going to have to figure that out on your own. I'm not going to walk you through this and hold your hand.
Also, it's the same thing with like dates, right? It's like, I mean, of course, as time goes on, we're going to go into different aspects of the handbook as well and like update things because things have obviously changed a lot in the last 5 years. And like, we want it to be a living, breathing piece of work. But at the same time, it's like people expect that when you go to dates, like, okay, what should I do exactly to make sure that he pays on dates and stuff? It's like, okay, here's the thing. This is very common sense. If he tries to get you to split the date, like, this is not the person. There's no way to like convince him. Even if you convince him to pay on the date, that's still the wrong person. You get that, right? Because you had to convince him to do that and he didn't want to do that organically. Like a high value man is someone who wants to pay for you. He doesn't have to be coerced or convinced to do that for you. Second of all, if he seems choreographed and rehearsed, he is.
Remember that charm is a script, okay? If somebody is very charming, they've had a lot of opportunities to swindle people, and they probably have.
Yeah, I don't remember if this was Lundy Bancroft or I think it was Gavin DeBecker. But Gavin DeBecker's book in The Gift of Fear, he was like, when somebody's charming you, people just go, oh, he's so charming, as opposed to, he's charming me, right? Because he wants something from me. And that's the thing, like, for me, like, when I meet men, it's very different. They have a sense of fear with me, which just makes them horny because fear is a powerful aphrodisiac. And I just like give off the impression that I just really don't want to engage with them because most of the time I don't. That's not even me putting on an act. I'm just like, I'm here playing cool with my friends. Like, I didn't say that I wanted to engage with you. And like, they're just eager for my approval because I give big daddy energy. That's what I tell my friends. I'm like, I give them their stern father who walked away and went for a glass of milk and never came back, and I think that's why. That's what you're saying to me.
Big daddy energy, BDE. Diana's got it.
Big daddy energy. But that's the thing. Like, what I've realized on dates with men is like, in the situations where they felt very confident and comfortable with me, they almost always were very choreographed and like they had pulled that shit on other women before. In situations where they felt very nervous and jittery and fearful, I was like, okay, yeah, they're really afraid of fucking up. This is more likely to go well. Because he doesn't want to fuck around with you. He doesn't want to lose his chance with you. They shouldn't be, like, you should go into that engagement being like, I'm here to be entertained and to enjoy myself. If you go in there being nervous and being like, oh, do I look okay? Will he like me? You're going in with a completely wrong energy. This is why we keep saying decenter men and like have a more neutral, at least at the very least. Basically, when someone seems too good to be true, they are, right? If somebody comes at a situation nervous, like they're coming in with better energy because at the end of the day, they should be nervous to lose you. You have to go into a dating situation being like, I'm here to be entertained and enjoy myself. If you go in nervous being like, oh my God, I don't know if he's going to like me, again, you're just centering them. You know what I mean? We keep on prioritizing decentering and maintaining a neutral attitude towards men because that is the winning strategy. The less you care about them, the better outcomes you're going to get because your outcome is not tied to having them be impressed by you.
Being picked. There's a reason why this pick me comes from. And this is something my therapist would say too. She's like, well, it's all well and good, Rose, that you're like going on a date, but like, it's not about whether they're going to like you. You realize that, right? I'd be like, no. Like, what if? She's like, it's not about whether they like you. It's whether you like them.
Yep. And that's the thing. That's why you need to start monitoring the way that you consume like stuff on social media and like just online content. Because when you have these like contradictory messages being sent to you, it's going to convince you to settle. It's going to give you fear because it's an algorithm that's based on confirming your worst fears.
Scarcity.
Yeah, a scarcity mindset and just like a very limited feeling of like what's available to you in the world. And like there's a lot of love in the world still. I know we're in the shittiest timeline, but like the second you start absorbing this energy of like there's no hope, you're already condemning yourself to a fate worse than death. And what's the point of that?
Don't become a Death Star. You want to become a bright living star, like a shining star of light and love. And honestly, the world will come to your aid when that's the energy you cultivate. Again, like Diane and I were talking about this the other week, how much more success we've had in the last year alone, and how much of that comes from this perspective of like, I am the center of my world. I am worthy. I am worth it. My life matters. And like the stars align when you have that kind of energy. And that's what we want for you, whether it's romantically, personally, professionally, on all levels. We want you to prize yourself above all others.
And there will always be people who are detractors and haters and who don't see the vision and like not gonna understand you and not gonna understand where you come from because they've accepted that limited mindset for themselves. But you don't have to do that.
Nope.
You don't have to be that way.
Let them perish from your lives.
Exactly. And with that, we're at the end of another great episode.
How I love our episodes.
Yeah, to all the scroats, let them eat cake. Let them perish. Let them eat dung. Let them eat dung.
Let them eat dung. And to all the Trumpers and Nazis and fascists, die, please, quickly, and die mad.
Yep. Bye.